for the people who are outside of DC who are not as plugged in, believe me, this is coming soon to a city near you. He's threatened this to Chicago, Oakland, Baltimore.
So law enforcement, on one hand, should be serving the role of de-escalation, of how do you say?
De-arresting.
Down. Yeah, I mean, just de-arresting, right. But basically eliminating anxiety in situations.
What I'm wondering is why it's not an emergency when ICE is raiding people's homes, separating families. I want to know why it's not a state of emergency when crime was up 30%. Again, it's dropped 30%.
There are so many reasons why you should care about this issue. And the first one is that, to me, what's happening is Trump is clearly trying to consolidate as much power as he possibly can. And this is just another example, whether you want to look at what's going on at the Smithsonian, him appointing himself the head of the Kennedy Center, where he's going to try to, be the czar of anything out of the federal government that deals with the arts. He's trying to consolidate as much power as he possibly can.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. Welcome home, y'all. This is episode 92 of Native Land Pod, where we give you all things politics and culture. We are your hosts, Angela Rye. There's Andrew Gillum and Tiffany Cross. What's going on, y'all? What are we talking about today?
I think we got to talk about D.C. As you know, I'm here in the nation's capital, and it is on fire. It is on lockdown, and it's giving 2020 vibes post the uprising, I'll say, after George Floyd. So I definitely want to get into that.
With a direct target on the backs of Black mayors, it appears, all across the country. Angela, Tiff, good to be back with you. Welcome back stateside, sis.
Yeah.
We also got to get into this redistricting, which I think is monopolizing a lot of national conversation. And I think we got to level it so that people know where they fit into it.
I think the other thing that's very important is, to your point, Andrew, we are welcoming Tiff back. And I think her journey to the motherland helps us to realize that our politics are not, in fact, flat. They touch the globe, and we, especially as a people, got to be connected. So I can't wait to get this update from Tiff. I would say Aquaba, but that ain't it. What did you say? On the DRC,
everybody spoke French and Lingala. So bonsoir.
Bonjour.
Bonsoir.
Bienvenue.
Andrew slips into French all the time. What we say?
Bienvenue.
All the time.
Welcome
we
home.
Say welcome home, y'all.
The United States
and
of
he's
America.
Still off message. Anyway. All right. I wanted, if you guys don't mind, I just want to do a quick shout out. Right before we started the show, I learned that a good friend of mine who I've known since middle school was killed tragically in a car accident. His name is Teddy Huger. I just want to dedicate this episode of Native Land Pod to him and his family. He fought hard to have his baby girl, and I think she's 3 now. So I just want to send love to his family. It's a reminder for everybody at home that life is indeed short, and we are living in some trying times. And in the midst of all that, on a macro level, people are also suffering and grieving. So I just want to send love to everyone grieving loved ones today. Thanks.
What's going on, y'all? Ty reporting live from Washington, D.C. I'm right outside the metro station, so if you hear a train, my apologies. Just want to give y'all an update about the situation on the ground here in Washington, D.C. So, as you guys know, for the past couple of days, this administration has been agitating local Washingtonians with the federalization of our police force, with the deployment of National Guard. He's doing everything that he can to erode our local autonomy. Our council members are taking issue with the fact that Section 740 of the Home Rule Act was invoked, effectively giving the executive control over our public safety functions and our decision-making functions in the city. But the thing is, Donald Trump issued this order under the guise of a public safety emergency. But what we know to be true here on the ground is that there is no public safety emergency. Now, outside of the thing that went viral where Elon's Doge boy got beat up downtown last week, crime is actually down here in D.C., violent crimes especially. And so it's important to note that this is not done for public safety. If this was done for public safety, you would have to wonder how that kind of decision-making could be coming from the same person who decided to release the insurrectionists that wreaked havoc on this same city. I mean, if you prioritize safety, why would you do that? Or if you truly care about safety, where is the unredacted Epstein list? I mean, there's so many things that could promote more safety than coming and eroding the autonomy of a duly elected black legislature here in the form of our city council and our mayor. So we know it's not safety. We know it's a grab for control. We know this is a test for fascism to see how far it will be allowed to go. And so to my folks that are outside of D.C., turn our voices up. Most people don't care about D.C. because they don't see it as out of sight, out of mind. They think we're just the politicians. We are a real city with real people and real experiences that are being affected by this. And to my folks in the city, let's stay educated. Because I mean, the reality is there's only but so much you can do to push back against the unchecked powers of the President of the United States. And we didn't do that to ourselves. The GOP capitulated. They kiss his ass and give him everything that he wants. The Democrats are right there sort of bowing down. And so for us, as community members here in DC who have the most to lose, it's important to look out for each other. I know I just helped somebody get de-arrested yesterday, or diffuse a situation rather, where cops were just surrounding a guy and had no cause to arrest him. And so just our vigilance can save us. I saw folks interacting with that T-app and having all the details to share about folks. Let's share some things about the presence of these federal agencies in our city. Let's insulate ourselves and make sure that we're safe. And so that's all that I have. Hope to be joining you on the show soon. But in the meantime, in between time, just pray for DC. Free DC.
That is
real.
from Ty Hobson-Powell, who has been on the show with us before. In addition to that really incredible update, those encouraging words, we have got another Andrew Gillum, Tiff. We got a new word in our vocabulary. It is de-arrested. I'm gonna work with this. I am gonna make sure that I get some people de-arrested in this moment. I love that, Ty.
I think he was going toward de-escalate,
Yeah.
but yeah,
It's fine, but I like de-arrest. I would like to ensure that we de-arrest some people.
Well, he was one of the voices of the young people. He was one of the three young
Very
people.
powerful.
Yeah. But remember how old he was? How old he is?
He's in his early 30s.
30s?
But you know, at grandma's house, you sit at the young people's table, until you're 45. I'm 45, so I think I get graduated up in October. Tiff, I want to come to you because we actually did my solo pod yesterday on this same issue. We had mother, Miss Cora Masters-Berry on. We had Tony Lewis, who's a prolific activist and author in DC. And we also had Dion Reeder. But I want to come to you because you live in the heart of the nation's capital. What are you seeing, Tiff? How are you feeling? And how do you encourage residents to respond in this moment?
Well, I see a lot of pushback from the residents, a rainbow coalition of pushback. I've even stopped and chatted with a few people, and a lot of white men have been very vocal, and I would say even provocative when it comes to the increased presence of law enforcement. And when I've asked, why are you yelling? What's your interest? And they say, I have a lot of privilege here and I plan to use my privilege as much as I can to disrupt what's happening. And you can see that very blatantly in how they're approaching the residents of the city. Where I happen to live, I'm surrounded by public housing. And in these public housing units, it's community, like the old folks sit out there and play cards. The old men hang on the corner and all of that is gone. And there are people, who are out there doing things that are not community minded. They might be criminal. And, Trevor Noah writes this in his book, Born a Crime. And this is something that I'm privileged to be able to have this conversation with you all because there's a nuance that's lost in legacy media. And there are certain rules, regulations, and understanding to neighborhood politics. I want to say hood politics, but neighborhood politics, that your intention is not always to break the law. So if there's always a dude, he's gone now, I don't know where he is, but he's in a wheelchair and he sits behind my building and he sells Lucy's. And yes, technically he's breaking the law, but this man doesn't deserve to be slammed to the ground. This is how we lost Eric Gardner. He didn't deserve to be choked, Right. So there is something about living in a Black city. You had on Cora Masters-Berry, and I'm heartbroken that so many younger people don't know Marion Barry anymore. But Marion Barry was about that life, and he was on the front lines of these types of things. And I imagine if we had a mayor like Marion Barry right now, there is footage of him in an amazing documentary on HBO where he's protesting. He's joining the protesters, and a police officer approaches him, and he looks him dead in the face and says, "I wish you motherfucking would put your hands on me." I just feel like, yes, his legacy has been reduced. But let me just offer a little bit of information. Ty did such a great job. The Trump administration has deployed the National Guard through the end of September. As Ty said, this is only allowable under Section 40 of the D.C. Home Rule Act with congressional... 740, forgive me. For the D.C. Home Rule Act with, of course, the approval of Congress. Nothing meets that standard. He talked about crime being down. It's true. Crime is down 26%. After a 35% drop in 2024. Overall crime is down 7%, and that's according to the Metropolitan PD. This for the people who are outside of DC who are not as plugged in, believe me, this is coming soon to a city near you. He's threatened this to Chicago, Oakland, Baltimore. DC does not have voting representation in Congress. We don't even control our own National Guard, unlike Puerto Rico and other territories. So the president is overriding the will of residents here. And I just want you all to get an up close and personal peek of what that looks like and what could be happening in your very neighborhood.
How y'all doing today? Y'all staying in that trouble? You got your ID on you, Chick?
Well, no, I live right here.
Okay, cool.
It's a cigarette. Did y'all get a call or something right here?
No, so we're doing checks, keeping everybody safe down here, right? Have you heard of the federal surge that Donald Trump's putting out?
No.
Right. You don't follow like Code 3 or anything like that people are putting up? All right, so yeah, Trump's got all federal agencies kind of coming together for 7 days and going out, trying to stop the violent crime, all kind of stuff. So we're out here contacting people, talking to them, right? Quality of life offenses, smoking, drinking in public, right? Can't happen outside, right? Most people know that. Right? So we're contacting people, trying to advise them of the law, so they learn, right? And then if there's other stuff going on where it turns into there's multiple agencies of somebody, there's a shoe date and things like that. So there's extra hands available, right? So we're just out here trying to inform people and educate people. It's not like we're trying to just go grab people and ruin someone's life over a joint or something like that, all right?
I only asked because when you walked up, at the moment you walked up, you only had eggs.
Yeah, well, it smelled like the odor of marijuana, burnt marijuana in the air, right? And you're the only guy that had something lit in your hand, and I didn't flashlight you, so I didn't realize it was just a cigarette. So that's on me. I appreciate you understanding and not getting chippy. All right, so just know, right? Learn, teach, tell your boys, like, yo, everybody's out, from FBI to Park Police. Right? So do your thing. Let them know. Don't be smoking outside. Don't be drinking outside, because Donald Trump is tired of it. People coming to visit.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know smoking in public?
I play that to say this man is sitting in his home, on his front stoop, in his home. And if you're listening, what you don't see, it's about 6 or 7 law enforcement officers from various agencies surrounding him and another person. Some of the more violent videos have been people literally fleeing, running when they see them approaching. And to me, I'm curious to hear from you guys. This is a litmus test on how much will we take. Now, I don't know what it looks like to stand up to this. I want us to survive, but I know we can't roll over and take this. So how much are we willing to take? Because the more and more we accept this, the more and more we normalize this, the more it's going to spread. So I don't know what the pushback is, but it has to be something. And right now I do see a lot of people, yelling at them. A friend of the show, Booker Squared, welcomed police this way.
What do you see? I see a whole bunch of tongues right here.
Angela, what's her name? Elizabeth?
Elizabeth.
Can't imagine being black.
Elizabeth Booker, Houston.
I sure can't imagine being a black person defending this shit. I can't imagine being a black person and working for an organization that was rooted in slave catching, but that's just me. I think the closer you get to white supremacy, the better off you're gonna be. Hell no. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. I saw the way they left them 5 black officers and
So Elizabeth Booker Houston, who's a friend of the show, has been a guest on the show. That is her welcoming the added law enforcement, and it's a very bodacious move.
At the Heritage.
Right. So I don't know.
In front of the Heritage Foundation.
She's been protesting the Heritage Foundation since before the DC takeover, though. So yes, I didn't mean it. I just wanted to clarify that. She's been consistent. She's been out there.
To your question, your point, Tiff, if I could, about how much will we take and surviving whatever the experience is, I really think the gentleman demonstrated well, right? Not escalating, the officer asking him for information while he sits on his property, minding his business, not inviting an interrogation like this. And the truth is these kinds of situations don't prevent violent crimes. What they 9 times out of 10 or 10 times out of 10 times will do is take what might be a normal situation in a normal neighborhood and escalate it off of anything. It could have been a refusal to give a license, or get off the porch and go inside and grab it and come back and show me. And any hesitation could have been a whole different kind of situation. And we all know what those potential conclusions could have been. So law enforcement, on one hand, should be serving the role of de-escalation, of how do you say?
De-arresting.
Down. Yeah. I mean, just de-arresting. Right. But basically eliminating anxiety in situations. And when you go out and you're faced with that kind of show of force of law enforcement, and bless his heart, but a law enforcement agent who's not really able to explain what the hell they out there doing. I mean, he says we're here to prevent crimes. And, in my opinion, you're here to potentially provocate a situation that could spiral out of control. So it's how far we go is, 1, survive each incident, survive each of these moments, folks, as you're out there. But 2, I think we have to protest. I think it starts from the top down and from the bottom up. You don't have to wait for instructions from your mayor. Your mayor may not give those instructions to get out and show your disapproval. But as we saw in LA, the display of nonviolent disapproval pushed them back and made them a little catty about their appearance there, because they didn't belong. So I think people have to raise their voices and show that this is not the role of the federal government. We resist it. We understand that you are on orders, but you right now represent this person who's attempting to manipulate everything about what we think and what we know to put in front of us a whole, situation that didn't deserve this, doesn't require it. If you really care, put some money back in. Put that $1 billion you took out of the budget from local governments, give that back to local law enforcement so they can actually do the work of preventing crime, instead of this scapegoating to basically avoid talking about, a child molester and what his role is in that molestation.
So I want to get into this really quickly. So Donald Trump issued this executive memorandum to Secretary Pete Hegseth on Monday, calling for this D.C. takeover. What is ordinary in these circumstances is that the federal government would exercise its jurisdiction in Section 740 to take over the Metropolitan Police Department, as well as bring in the National Guard and other law enforcement entities from the feds in a state of emergency. What I'm wondering is why it wasn't a state of emergency on January 6th. What I'm wondering is why it's not an emergency when ICE is raiding people's homes, separating families. I want to know why it's not a state of emergency when crime was up 30%. Again, it's dropped 30%. So I am hoping that the mayor, that the attorney general in D.C. rely on these points when they go to argue the subjective standard that Donald Trump is relying upon to interpret Section 740, and they push back. Why does that matter right now? Andrew, everything you're saying in L.A., we were on a panel in Tunica, Mississippi for the CBC Institute, the Mississippi Policy Conference. Nana Jumphy, who's been a guest on our show, talked about L.A. being ready. They were ready to protest. They were ready for what was coming. What I think that, to Tiff's point around a litmus test too, is a lot of our folks are unready. They did not know how bad this was coming. This man that Tiff just played, sitting on his front porch, is like, what are you even talking about, friend? Right? Like, he has no idea this is coming. So we need some of the court actions taken so that we can buy our folks time to organize. I wanted to say that in closing, because I know we have a very important update to get to from Tiff about her trip to the motherland. So I know we want to transition into that, but want to leave it open for just a moment, literally a moment, for any closing words from y'all before we transition.
If you get ready, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. He listed the cities that are at the top of the list. Y'all take this time to get ready.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, it's actually
so with that,
it's a smooth transition, Angela, because the one thing I can tell you about visiting the Democratic Republic of Congo, it's nothing to see every few feet a member of the government in camouflage holding AKs, just everywhere, all over the corner. So it was really interesting to be traveling and then to come back to DC and see this through line of, wow, this is what America is inching towards. And it's a frightening sight. I know there's a lot happening domestically. So I'm going to be really quick, but I missed the show last week and just wanted to make a connection with what happens in Africa and how it impacts us here. And what I'll say is the very way how we're communicating with each other now on our computers, our smartphones, electric vehicles. All of these things are emblems of the modern world, and they all are powered from batteries that are powered by cobalt. Cobalt is in the mineral rich country of the Democratic Republic of Congo. It's mined by workers who are laboring in slave-like conditions. So every time we use our computer, every time we answer our phone, every time we're on our smartphone, every time we see an EV or get into an electric vehicle, I want us to remember there are Black folks working in slave-like conditions to mine the cobalt. Right now, because my question while I was over there was, well, who is buying? Who's the consumer? Of course, America is the largest consumer economy. China, at this point, accounts for 65% of all global cobalt processing, which turns into lithium-ion batteries. The mining industry has ravaged the landscape of the DRC. So as you see the images being played right now of bloody hacking of limbs. It is internal conflict because the rebels have tried to seize control. And this place should be Wakanda. This should be the wealthiest. When you think about how it is powering right, this is literally vibranium that is powering the world and the people there. Here you can be impoverished and still have a microwave. You can still have a refrigerator and be well below the poverty line. When I say poor there, I mean, they literally have dirt. And that's it. And so they're trying to survive. So I even had to understand somewhat of the rebels, as horrific and barbaric as it was, that they too are trying to survive. Millions of trees have been cut down. The air of the mining areas are hazy with grit. The water has been contaminated with toxic effluents from the mining process. Cobalt is toxic to touch and breathe. There are hundreds of thousands of poor Congolese people touching and breathing it in every day. You'll see young mothers with babies strapped to their backs, breathing in this dust. Trump administration did just recently cut a deal between Rwanda, and what we mostly know of this conflict is the Rwandan conflict that we all remember. A lot of us, yes, it became humanized to us in the movie Hotel Rwanda. And so recently Trump signed a deal because Rwanda was supporting a group of the rebels. It's really complicated. We don't have a lot of time to get into it, but essentially Rwanda was supporting a group of the rebels, and the Trump administration came in and tried to coordinate this peace deal. But I'll just say, these peace deals do not always benefit the people there. The nearest example is Angola recently cut a deal where China built infrastructure in exchange for their oil, but the Angolans are not really benefiting from that. And the United States has a deep history in the Congo. Patrice Lumumba was their beloved leader. He was the equivalent to our Barack Obama. And he was murdered with the support of some local people, Congolese politicians, the Belgians who ravaged this country for decades, literally cutting off young children's arms. So many people there without limbs because they worked in the rubber plantations that the Belgians powered. But he was murdered with the tacit support of the United States government and the malign neglects of the United Nations. So I just wanted to share this so we could see that what happens in Africa not only powers the globe, specifically what's happening in the Congo not only powers the globe, but the conflict there we have to care about. And it's a beautiful country because you'll see on the screen now, I had this beautiful brunch and, the vegetation is there and Black people are beautiful in every language. They're speaking French fluently and flowing effortless between English and French. And, the skin looks like silk and they're attired. I mean, they just move and look like royalty to people who are lucky enough to live that way. It's a lot of corruption there. And so I just wanted to update people on what's happening there. We will dig more into this in the show. I would love to have a representative from the Congo or a journalist who covers the Congo. Larry McDowell does amazing work for CNN covering the entire continent of Africa. So in the future, we'll talk about this more and how what's happening in Africa impacts us. But it's a lot of corruption, a lot of dictatorship, and I'm sad to say that America is falling right in line with a lot of what I've seen overseas and a lot of countries that are falling or leaving their democratic process. So thank you all for giving me the time to talk about it. It's a lot more to say, but I'll reserve it when we have on an expert and not somebody like me who just went to be on ground to learn. But I do want to thank the people for inviting me there for the Genecost event, which honored the people who I thought this was something that happened decades ago, but the conflict and the murders are still happening. So my sincerest thank you to the organization that brought me there. I had the opportunity to meet with the president and first lady, and it was a very humbling, sad experience. But we'll talk more about that later because I know we have exciting guests to get to today to get into our next topic.
No, thank you so much, Tiff, for the share, for the update, and for holding all of us accountable to stay informed about these very critical issues. We can't talk about war and genocide in one part of the country and not talk about it on the continent too.
That was that was my frustration, Angela, because obviously what's happening in Gaza is heartbreaking. It's awful. Like children are being starved, and America has been gripped by those images. And when it happens in Africa, year after year after year, largely due to Americans meddling in politics and European countries raping and pillaging the continent, we look at it like, well, those are Black babies in Africa. That's where it's supposed to happen. Those Black babies in Africa, as though Africa's a country and not a whole continent. But those Black babies over there, that's normalized. Like that's how they're supposed to live. But when it's somebody else that looks a little closer to white, it's impossible to think. It's like when the Ukrainian war took off. So those lives matter. Those children, if we're so concerned about sexual abuse and the Jeffrey Epstein list, then let's be concerned about sex trafficking in Africa. Let's be concerned about these children being mutilated. If we're concerned about children starving, let's be concerned about the young people in Congo who have nothing. So thank you for that. I don't want to go off on a whole tangent again, but that's so true, Angela.
That's exactly.
If I could just say, Tiff, thank you for reminding us of how mineral rich the continent of Africa being the most resourceful of all the continents. And a lot of times when I hear non-people of color talk about the continent, and they like to describe these fights of people of color against people of color, and they completely underestimate our intelligence by suggesting that this is just some black on black crime of some sort, when we know that it is the supply lines that is fueling the rest of the world that largely European nations are protecting and are aligned with many of these groups to protect that supply line, profiting from it. Exactly. Those situations. And so just thank you for that. And we all, we don't have to compare how terrible these situations are, but we absolutely need to pay attention, especially when it reflects us, where we come from, and the richness of the land.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we are, again, so grateful, Tiff, for your journey. Next time, take us with you. And we will definitely keep you all informed. We ourselves are going to be accountable on these issues and make sure that we're educating and learning at the same time here on Native Land Pod. As you all know, there is a hot topic percolating all over the country. People thought it began in Texas. It did not begin in Texas. Some would argue Louisiana, some would argue North Carolina. But what we know now is that it is far beyond the bounds of the state lines of Texas. Joining us today, though, are Congressman Mark Veasey, who represents Texas' 33rd Congressional District, State Representative Jolanda Jones, who was also a guest last week on my solo pod representing Texas's 147th State District, Legislative District, and Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver II. Some people call him Rev. I call him Boss. He's the CBC chair from when I was executive director of the CBC, but also now in the crosshairs. Don't clap right for this part. In the crosshairs in the redistricting battle in Missouri. He is the lone district that is protected, or was at least, by the Voting Rights Act. And now the Republicans in Missouri are targeting Congressman Cleaver's district. So welcome to our show. We say welcome home, y'all. And we thank you so much for joining us. Tiff or Andrew, I'm going to let you kick it off.
No, I actually have a shirt on, Representative Jones, that I wore for you. It says, "Move with faith, not fear." But Pastor and Congressman Veasey, it applies to all of you. But we've been so hardened by you, Representative Jones, and the delegation from Texas for showing what active and responsible resistance looks like. Your fight, I think, is powering so many of us around the country who are confronting these issues as well. I know that this issue confronts the country, the entire landscape. And right now, we may be looking at what I believe is sort of the armoring up, or maybe it is the ratcheting up between states as Democratic states start to respond to what some of these conservative states are doing. I'd love if you all could kick it off, beginning with you, Representative Jones, with telling us, what does the ground game look like if this actually does become a ratcheted up situation of D versus R states redistricting mid-decennial to basically confront and counteract what Republicans are doing to change the rules of the game so that they can cheat their way to reelection?
So the ground game in this instance looks like each state that's a Democratic state going in and, quite frankly, redistricting out Republicans, because that's what they're doing with us. And it's surgically precise. They are literally finding where there are concentrations of Black and brown people, which are organically majority minority, and they are somehow trying to say that it is a coalition district. And so the districts currently weren't drawn because they're a coalition district. The districts were drawn because Black people and brown people are just living by each other, and they've somehow said that that's illegal. And so now they are dividing us, they're cracking us, and then they're packing us into other districts that are majoritarily Anglo. And so the only way Trump gets 5 seats is if they go in with precision and divide up Black and brown neighborhoods. That's racist, and it's important we call it what it is. And so I see it as self-defense. I think Nancy Pelosi called it self-defense for the preservation of representation by Black and brown people to elect the representatives of their choice, plain and simple. And so if you've been in a fight, you have to use the tactics that your opponents are using. There's no way they can expect for us to fight with both hands behind our back when clearly Trump and the billionaire boys and those people literally don't respect the Constitution. They don't respect historic districts in Houston. I know that Congressman Veasey can probably explain to you how his stronghold is Tarrant County. It's been in 33, and they some kind of way tried to carve out Tarrant County out of there to make him weaker in his district. I'll let him talk about that. And so it looks like guerrilla warfare. It looks like hand-to-hand combat. It looks like we need to stay where we are so that they can't get a quorum, because at the end of the day, there's 88 Republicans in Texas in the House, and there's 62 Democrats, and 62 never beats 88. So the only tactic that we have is to get ghosts where they literally can't conduct business, which is what our quorum break is. So that's what it is. It's living in an uncomfortable state. This is not normal for me to be hiding, for me to be watching who I talk to on the phone, for me to stay in wherever I'm staying. I'm not telling you that. For me to be concerned that the FBI are hunting us like we are criminals for something that's not criminal, and it's not even federal. So none of this is normal, but for us, it's necessary for us to just hold the line and deny them a quorum, because it's all we have to do at a minimum until California drops their maps or something, so that we can see Texas. If you go forward, we're going to do that too. You think you're the biggest, you're the baddest, boldest on the block? Well, you ain't. And That's what it
Well,
is.
Thank you so much, Reverend.
sorry, that is the
Go ahead,
news
Tiff.
coming out this week that California Governor Gavin Newsom has said that he will draw congressional maps that will end Trump's presidency, quoting him. He has yet to offer any details on that, but certainly the American public is waiting with bated breath. You kicked it to Congressman Mark Veasey, so I'll pick up with you, Congressman Veasey. One, I think for the people who may not understand the seriousness of this, which I understand because we're blitzed every day with 15 things that are urgent, and we're asking people to care about these 15 things and to fight these things. Right now, DC residents are worried about their children getting to and from school safely. The same in Texas. There was a 15-year-old student who was disabled, who was detained by ICE because of a mistaken identity. So while we have all of that going on, we see our core democratic institutions eroding before our eyes. And now, even though the redistricting issue has been in the limelight for years, predating the Trump administration, why should people care? Like, what is the sense of urgency? Make it plain for people that if you're sitting in your apartment in New York City, or you're sitting in Seattle or Chicago, what is the sense of urgency? Why we should care about this issue?
I mean, there are so many reasons why you should care about this issue. And the first one is that, to me, what's happening is Trump is clearly trying to consolidate as much power as he possibly can. And this is just another example, whether you want to look at what's going on at the Smithsonian, him appointing himself the head of the Kennedy Center, where he's going to try to, be the czar of anything out of the federal government that deals with the arts. He's trying to consolidate as much power as he possibly can. And he's going to continue to do this with ICE. He's going to continue to do this with the firing of the federal workforce and these DOJ layoffs. And I really do think that he is trying to move us towards a place that we have not seen when it comes to how the U.S. government works. This whole idea that he's going to take another census in a couple of years would, to me, be the beginning of him trying to put together a group of legislators that are Republican and 100% beholden to him, that would absolutely allow him to stay in office if that's what he chooses to do on January the 6th, 2029, where he absolutely could not be removed. And so I think that we're in a very dangerous situation right now. And what he's trying to do is not healthy. It's not helpful. I think for those of us that have followed voting rights for a long time, that this could also be the end of the Voting Rights Act. There's something that has not been talked a lot about when it comes to the Texas map. And one of the congressional districts that they dismantled in Jolanda Jones' neck of the woods in Houston by Sylvia Garcia, it was a 63% Hispanic voting age population district. And now it's been down to about 44% Hispanic voting age population. And that is a clear violation of the Voting Rights Act. If anything is over 50%, it is supposed to be a protected district. And so now that's been dismantled. My guess is that Texas is trying to set themselves up to be, and Greg Abbott more specifically is trying to set himself up to be the person that took down the Voting Rights Act and specifically took down Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. That would have a huge impact, not just on Texas and congressional seats, but that would have a big impact on state legislative seats, on county commissioner seats, on city council seats. And it would really hurt the Black community probably more than anybody else.
Congressman, can I want to just really quickly, because our viewers may not understand, everything that you said, again, because we're flooded with so much information. So one, you talked about Donald Trump and the census. So just so our viewers know, Donald Trump has instructed the Commerce Department, which is, of course, where the census lives, to immediately begin working on a new census. And we don't know what that means. Again, he says these things and has offered no details on what might include that. But the concern is who counts within that census. And why that matters is because that can determine budgets, that determines resources that come to your community. But what we're talking about today, why that matters, is because every 10 years after the census, states redraw the boundaries of congressional and state legislative districts, which if he has his say, it will not be an honest account, and it could be redrawn in a way that is racist, Gerrymandering, sadly, is not illegal. Racist gerrymandering is. And so we have seen in North Carolina, Andrew and Angela correct me if I'm wrong, but the court, when they were looking at North Carolina, said it was done with surgical precision to exclude voters of color. So you have a process where you have politicians picking their voters, not voters picking their choosing their politicians. So I just wanted to give our viewers some context there.
And I know we want to make sure we get some ample time to hear from you all too. Congressman Cleaver had a technical difficulty, but it's coming right back. Okay, I wanted to come back to you, Congressman Veasey, because there's something very, very critical that we are kind of not talking about proactively in the press. And you brought it up about Sylvia Garcia's district. These are sinister acts because the president is trying to figure out how to get a majority, but not just politically. He's doing it the same way that he removed the Martin Luther King bust out of the Oval. He's doing it the same way that they attacked DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, for those of you who are not following it at home. He's doing it the same way that he calls those of us who he decides to attack, Black journalists, low IQ. This is absolutely racist at its core. Can you talk about how this racist gerrymandering practice, because gerrymandering in and of itself is not bad. We'll get into that later. Redistricting in and of itself is not bad every 10 years. But why all of a sudden, when he needs a majority of white supremacists in the House of Representatives, in state legislatures all over the country, now you find yourself also in the crosshairs of that? Why should people pay attention to this? Why should they focus on this? And why should they make it a priority, given what Tiff just said about everything else that we have to carry?
Yeah, absolutely. People should care about this for a lot of different reasons. Let me give you an example. One of the things that my Republican colleagues will absolutely not do is that they will not, when we have the appropriations process, they will not ask for community funding project money. They refuse to do it. And I just got a YMCA reopened in one of the Black communities in Fort Worth in my district. And the way the lines are redrawn, that district would now be represented by a member of Congress in the North Texas delegation that's hardcore rural Republican. And he would never ask for community funding project money so that YMCA could be open to serve low-income families. He just would not do it. And so all of a sudden, if you can draw these districts and, like you said, surgically remove us from areas and make it to where our votes won't count, then you will have a bunch of members of Congress representing our communities that won't do things that we believe are important and bring tax dollars back into our communities to help uplift our neighborhoods. And just that alone could be something that I think could have profound implications on our communities, as well as a continuation of people just being able to be fired from the federal workforce, and many people that work at many different agencies are from the African American community, and the list goes on and on and on. And so people need to realize that it's not really just about him trying to elect more Republican congressmen. It's about him trying to elect more congressmen that are going to completely neglect the African American communities and put together majorities in the House of Representatives that will not advance legislation that is collectively in our best interest. And it's very real what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and Andrew, I want to make sure that you weigh in here too, but there's one thing that I really want to say to Representative Jones and to all of your colleagues. Thank you all for bringing a fight that the nation could see themselves reflected in. I know that some of your colleagues now are kind of wavering, trying to figure out if they have the willpower, the desire, the funds, right, to even stay out in this fight. Can you talk about what people can do at home to encourage those who are wavering, who are worried about their families, like legitimate issues, but who are worried about how they continue this fight? What happens when the next special session is called? Where do we go from here?
So let me say this. Right here, right now, where we at. We can't tell you where we are, right? Because we're being hunted by the FBI. Let's be clear. For something that's not even federal and for something that's not even criminal. I want you to let that sink in. We are resolute, and we are actually taking it one day at a time. And here's why. Just yesterday, the governor said, because I think he's embarrassed that he hadn't been able to force us to come back and he hadn't been able to find us, that, we're going to end the special session on Friday. The special session was supposed to end on Tuesday, coming up. And so now I won't believe the special session is ended until it's officially ended.
Sign die.
Because it could actually be a way to get us to come back, to capture us like they did back in the slavery days, to drag us back to the plantation on the House floor. So we are resolute. We ain't going nowhere. We'll deal with the second special session when he calls it. Now, he's told us he's going to call it. And we know he's going to call it. But we don't know if he's going to call it immediately. We don't know if he's going to wait till Monday. We just don't know. And so just continue to give us encouragement, support us, support the TLBC, the Texas Legislative Black Caucus. That would be good for you to do. And just keep talking about this. And you asked Congressman Veasey, why should people other places feel pay attention to what's going on? Let me tell you why. Because last year in North Carolina, nobody knew what was going on. Last year in North Carolina, they literally racially and illegally and unconstitutionally gerrymandered, and they stole 3 seats. And right now, Donald Trump has a Congress with a 3 Republican majority who rubber stamps all of his stuff. So you wonder what happened in North Carolina with something that people didn't know about. So let me give us a pat on the back that we let y'all know what they're trying to do in Houston, because we don't want it to go under cover of darkness. And while you think North Carolina might not have anything that affects you, or Texas, if he keeps the House in 2026, we're going to have more of these bad policies. So, those eggs that used to cost $6 that now cost $13, that's because they stole them 3 seats in North Carolina. The Social Security they're trying to take from us after we've paid into it for our entire adult life. They're trying to take away our Social Security to give it to billionaires for tax breaks. We earn that. That's not a handout. That's not welfare. You know how families are literally, U.S. citizens are literally being deported. They are coming up, covered up, don't know who they are, don't even know if they legitimate police, being shipped off the countries. That's because Trump has a 3 Republican majority. So trust and believe it can get worse. And I think we've gotten comfortable just as a people, as Black people in this country, because we're so far removed from segregation. We don't realize how we used to get lynched. We don't realize how we used to have crosses burned in our yards. We don't realize how we used to get assassinated. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, you name them. Emmett Till, who was a kid who ain't do nothing wrong, right? We don't realize that it can be bad. We don't realize that we had to go to separate schools. We don't realize that we had to drink out of separate faucets. We don't realize that stuff. You know why? Because they're taking it out of our books, and we don't realize that. And so we need to realize that it can get worse. We used to have to pay poll taxes, and it's just been so far removed. And I really need for Black people to go back to the mentality that we had during segregation, where we were it. We were going to educate each other. We were going to look out for each other. We were going to make sure that we all were supported and that we survived and that we thrived and we didn't rely on other people. But my point is, this is what they're trying to do. We just had the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act, either early this week or last week. I can't remember the date. And they're trying to take us back to a time when we didn't have the right to vote. And, right now, there's not a lot. We have 12.33% of the population in Texas. Black people do. And most of us are concentrated in the Houston area and the Dallas area. And so that's where the 4 Black Congress people in Texas are elected, in Houston and Dallas. And with this racist redistricting, they literally are potentially putting Mark Veasey against Jasmine Crockett. Why we can't have both? Why they got to fight each other? Why does it have to be a bloodbath? In Houston, we got Al Green, the one who shook his cane at the state of disillusion and said impeach Trump, and they escorted him out. Why has he been drawn into CD18, which is where Congresswoman Jackson Lee and Congressman Turner were? So they're literally going to wipe out 2 Black seats. And you talked about Congresswoman Garcia. They've literally diluted hers to where the Hispanics that they put in her district don't vote as high a rate. And so you think this can't affect you? It most certainly can, and it will.
Absolutely.
And fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. North Carolina was the first fool, and we know about it. Well, now we know. We have no We have no reason to expect that Trump is all of a sudden going to respect Black people or the Constitution or women, you name it. He doesn't respect anybody. And so I'm asking you to please pay attention and please hold us down, because it is hard. We're away from our families. I got a new grandbaby. I miss her. I'm my mother's caregiver, but my son and my sister are taking care of our mother and grandmother, because this is something we just have to do. And for me, I always thought if I lived back in the day with the Edmund Pettus Bridge and the Montgomery bus boycott, that I would be there. So I know that I'll be there. So just keep praying for us, keep fighting for us, encourage us, because we literally are getting fined $500 a day. Y'all, we make $600 a month, right? And that's $600 a month, which is $7,200 a year. That $600 a month goes to pay for my retirement, so my pension, goes to pay for my health insurance, and I also take out my dues because I'm a dues-paying member of the Texas State Employees Union. And $600 a month is not a lot of money. Who can live off of that? And now they're threatening to cut our budgets. And they're saying we've abandoned our duties. We have not abandoned our duties. I have a district office that's open right now. When my constituents have issues with getting their Medicaid or their Medicare, or they have problems with their relatives who are incarcerated, or they can't get Section 8 housing, my office helps them. That's what we do.
Absolutely.
They are cutting our budget by 30%. So I will stop venting about why you need to care about what happens in Texas, because it is going to affect you. And if Donald Trump is able to hold on to the House by targeting minorities, Black and brown people, I don't even know how we recover. If we lose those 2 Black seats, we ain't gonna get them back.
Yeah.
We're gonna be stuck. So please support us. It's really important, and let us know, how you feel about what we're doing. And people are tired of it. For the most part, they say Democrats don't fight. Well, we fight.
You're fighting for sure.
We have literally got California, New York, and Illinois to say, hey, if you pull the trigger in Texas, Donald Trump, we got something for you.
That's right.
We can do the same thing where we're at.
Yeah.
And so we need for Democratic governors to do that.
Stiffening
Absolutely.
their spines.
We have another fighter who's joined us. Andrew, I know you probably have a question for Congressman Cleaver.
Really great comments by everybody. And Reverend Congressman Cleaver, we early in the conversation, Representative Jones mentioned packing and cracking. And those are terms of art as well as science. They have a meaning to them. Help us understand, because I think this connection really has to be made of the layperson might look at a map and see someone draw a circle around it and say, well, this is a district, and then go adjacent to it and draw another circle, say, this is a district. Tell us why it makes absolutely no sense, or what sense you think it makes, for communities of color, shared interests, communities of shared interests, how it is that is the way in which, don't take a layman's look at these maps, understand what we have in common, and how then we get drawn out of power and disempowered through our vote. So when we hear cracking and packing these districts, and I've seen it firsthand here in Florida, where we've lost now 3 CBC members out of the state of Florida, seats that were hard won by a consent decree through the courts. So I've seen it happen. But talk to us about what it means for Black folks who share common interests to be able to elect a representative of their choice, who will then go and advocate on behalf of those shared interests. How does that show up in this redistricting fight, the separation of our communities?
Well, thank you very much for the question. I apologize for the technical difficulties. But what we have here in Missouri is gerrymandering. And it is based on the pursuit of pure power. Nothing legal should creep into the conversation. It's pure political power. And what they would like to do is gather all of the minorities they can, all the African Americans, into one little area, and say, well, how did you get angry? I mean, we got thousands of Black people right here piled in together. And that's exactly the danger, because what happens then is they take away any, they will reduce and perhaps even take away the opportunity for African Americans, along with progressive whites or brown people, to be in a district where they would have a voice with the person. If I'm not in the 5th district, or if somebody with progressive values are not or is not in that district here, the people here have no voice. Yeah, they can go out and vote. They have no influence with the member. They can go to a town hall meeting. That member who is elected in a dummy mandated district is going to end up setting his or her agenda, political agenda, the committee they want to be on, and the votes they take on actually a minority of the people. And we are in Missouri are particularly vulnerable to this because my district right now is maybe 25% African American, and if you take my 25% and put it in a district where they have 80% already white voters, I am now just going to Washington and renting a room someplace. So we've got to have and I know people, some African Americans here. We're having a meeting this afternoon with all the state representatives, but I had even one of them to say, well, if we get all of the black people in this district, we're going to be more powerful. No, we won't. We're going to be impotent, politically impotent. So we have a lot of educating to do with people. And, I just got off the phone with Eric Holder to come and do this when we first got started. And he is preaching the same sermon, if you will, to all of us who are in jeopardy, that don't fall for the okie doke. And start thinking, well, if for example, one of the state representatives said, well, we got a large number of black folk over in Raytown, Missouri, which is a suburb of Kansas City. Let's put them over in the 5th district too. And on the surface, it may sound good. There ain't no good in it. So we're in a situation where it's flight or fight, and we're choosing fight. And I think that has to be done all over the country. We're going to do it here in Missouri, where people want to pick their voters instead of the voters picking their people.
Sorry.
Can I say this?
Mm-hmm.
And Yolanda touched on this a little bit earlier, which I think is very important. And I want to, first of all, before I say this, I want to thank Gavin Newsom for doing the redraw, because the biggest mistakes that Democrat made in 2003, when Tom DeLay did mid-decade redistricting and also misused federal resources. I don't know if y'all remember back in 2003 when
yes.
Oklahoma still had a Democratic governor, and they were trying to do the mid-decade redistricting. State legislators from Democratic state legislators from Texas went to Ardmore, Oklahoma, and no one knew where they were. And Tom DeLay used an F-16 to find the tail number of the former Speaker of the House who flew his own plane. They literally used government resources the same way how they're misusing the FBI now. And when that happened, we didn't do anything back. We did nothing. And had we done something back in 2003, we wouldn't be where we are today, because when a bully hits you on the playground, you got to hit his ass back. Mm-hmm. And we didn't do that. And so now they're thinking that we're just going to roll over and take it. And we're not anymore. We're fighting back. But if they go to Missouri and then they're talking about going to Florida, mm-hmm. we need to make sure that our governors are hitting back. And right now, there are too many excuses. People are saying, well, I can't because of, our state constitution says this and that. Florida has very strict rules.
Absolute constitutional amendment.
They have very strict rules in Florida. And I guarantee you, I don't know what the makeup is of the Florida Supreme Court right now. Andrew can probably tell us.
All DeSantis appointees.
I promise you, those Federalist Society judges in Florida are not going to go by the rules. So why in the hell are we still talking about the damn rules? We need for Jersey. We need for New York. We need for Colorado. Angela, your home state of Washington, we need for them to draw some long, skinny lines like they did in Texas, because no one in those cities need to be in a Kamala Harris 84% district.
Right.
And they need to put some of those Democrats in some of those heavily packed districts in blue states and draw those Republicans out. They need to draw their asses right out. And if we're going to sit back and talk about, oh, the rule of law and you can't do that, and the Constitution, and when they are eliminating us and eliminating black seats, then what in the hell are we even doing?
Yeah,
we got to fight back. It's now or never.
Let me tell you, I know Mark is mad when he cussing in front of Congressman Cleaver. That's good, Mark. It's important. This is one of these moments where you have to call a thing. I think it's really, really important. Even though my state is not as diverse as it once was, there are populations where people of color need to still have their representatives and have a voice. We cannot lose sight of the importance of calling this thing what it is. It is racist. It is not just political. It may so happen to be that our politics generally swing left, but that does not make it just political. It is racist first, and we've got to lead with that. And I think that is so important. Tiff, I saw you leaning in. I don't want to talk over
I'm
you.
just
I just
listening. You got it.
Mark
Go
was
ahead.
cussing.
You got it. I'm just listening.
Rep. Jones, can I pick up where Tiffany didn't want to? Which is to say, you all have stiffened the spines of some of these, frankly, super blue state Democratic governors who previously when you sat there with Kathy Hochul and I heard the words come from her mouth, love all the Democrats and all, but I just wasn't expecting it. You all have taken the wool off, and I'm curious to know how much of this you can share of your conversations with some of the more timid of Democratic governors who are not recognizing that they must meet this moment with a threat of mutual destruction. So if you go there, we all die, right? The system blows up on everybody.
It's a Pyrrhic victory, right? And it was interesting. One of the reasons that I ended up saying what I said with Governor Hochul that ended up going viral was because one of the problems we have with our allies who do not have melanin in them, is they don't want to say racist.
Yeah.
They just don't want to say it. And the truth is, the Supreme Court that's owned by Trump has said that political gerrymandering is legal. That if Republicans want to draw out Democrats so they can have more Republican seats, it's legal.
That's right.
So if you lead with it's a political gerrymandering, Republicans are trying to draw Democrats out, they can do that. We have got to be smarter, and we need our allies to call a thing, call a spade, pull a race card when they racist. And they need to say it's racist gerrymandering. And at the end of the day, what I've said and what I said then was we need our white allies to call it racist, right? Black people vote at the highest levels for Democrats.
Yeah.
But we are the ones that are the least protected by Democrats. I mean, we will have white Democrats filibuster in pink shoes for however many hours for a woman's right to their body. I'm going to need that same vigor and awareness to be brought to racistly gerrymandering out the constitutional right of Black and brown people to elect a representative of their choice. And to Congressman Cleaver's point, where you want somebody who is progressive, let's just say progressive, who's going to be able to vote progressive things. Congressman Veasey, you served with Congressman Turner. And if he ain't say nothing else, people knew he was from the FOFO, which is Acres Home.
Acres Home.
Right? So if you're not from Houston, Texas, you probably did your research to figure out what is the FOFO, what is Acres Homes. When Congressional District 18 came into existence in 1973, Acres Homes has always been there. Acres Homes, Independence Heights, and Acres Homes came because the homes were on acres, right? And this is when Black people didn't even have land, right? Independence Heights speaks for itself. It's independent. Those were always in Congressional District 18 since 1973 when it was created. In this new gerrymandered racist map, they have literally removed Acres Home from CD 18. They have removed Independence Heights from CD 18 and put it in CD 29 with a Latina, right? So they basically, we had a herd of Black folks who had common and shared interests, and we voted our interests to get somebody elected. And let me tell you who represented CD 18: Barbara Jordan, Mickey Leland, Craig Washington, Sheila Jackson Lee, Sylvester Turner. How do you take away Acres Homes and you basically separated them from the herd?
Right.
I mean, if you look at those Animal Kingdom shows, what happens when somebody gets separated from the herd?
That's right.
They get
Trampled.
eaten, right? No one's there to protect them. And so this is serious. And what they're doing is they're going, and what they have to do in order to succeed is if they've got to go to urban areas where we are concentrated, because in Texas, we from like racist towns, when we get older, the first thing we do is go to the big city. We go to Houston, we go to Dallas, where we'll see other people like us, right? And so they've literally divided. It's a legal terminology, cracked. They've cracked the Black community or cracked the Hispanic community and packed them where they want them to go to dilute minority power to vote who they want. So this is serious as a heart attack. And again, if you learn nothing from me, if you get nothing from me from this, we've got to call a thing a thing. I'm a trial lawyer for 30 years. Here's what I do. I prepare for my opposition, right? How would I get me? And I do that. If I'm a Republican lawyer in this lawsuit that's going on, I'm going to go find every Democrat who on TV said that it was a power grab.
Yeah.
Or that Trump is trying to hold on to power, or that Trump is trying to get 5 seats. I'm going to go and they're going to be on the witness stand. And I'm going to say, aren't you Andrew Gillum? And you're going to say, yes, ma'am, I am. And have you been not an advocate to preserve, to get rid of this gerrymandering? And you're going to say, yes, ma'am, I have. And did you not say, was this on you on TV, on CNN, on this day? You're going to say, yes, ma'am. And did you not say that it's political gerrymandering? And you're going to say, yes, ma'am, I did, because it is. And I'm going to say, so it ain't racist, right? And you're going to say, well, yes, it is. And they say, but that ain't what you said. So you lying then or you lying now? And every time our allies do not have the courage to say that it's racist, you are putting a nail in the coffin of Black and brown people to elect representatives of their choice, because that's exactly what they're going to show. And under Chief Justice Roberts, political gerrymandering is okay.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I want to, Congressman Cleaver, I'm coming to you because this is a good time for the benediction. I know Congressman Veasey has a hard out. And once in 2012 at the DNC, you told us to march on, boss. So I need you to close us out, bring us home, as Andrew would say.
Well, first of all, thank you. What you guys are doing is the Lord's work. And
thank you.
We're fighting. I mean, this is a brazen effort to reduce the voices of our people, and we've got to resist. And so this is a dark moment for our country and for our people. But there is no law against fighting in the dark. So I think this is time for us to punch, whether it's sunshine or darkness. And I had to say to some people earlier today, when we're doing what we're doing, it's not the hyperbolic rantings of a member of Congress trying to hold on to a threatened House seat. This is about falling back into the moments of our parents and grandparents and their grandparents who brought us this far. And we've got to hold on to the light right now, so that when our children and their children come up, the light is still on. So we still have some light. We have to hold on to the light no matter what. My grandpa used to love to tell people about, he's down and walks at you, and he said, well, you probably don't want, well, yeah, Veasey knows what walks at you. But, he said that the man took his son to town, and he told his son, "You stand here on the corner, and I'm gonna be back shortly." and if I don't make it through till night, you got my little flashlight here, so you use it. And so some people came by and said, "Little boy, you know, we're from the humane community. We are humane. We want you to have a home. You stand over here in the corner. You follow us." They said, "No, I can't go. I can't go. Why can't you go?" Well, my dad told me wait here. And so they said, "All right, he's lost. He's going to be one of those statistics." So a little while later, another group of people came by and said, "Look, you're hungry. We want to take you down to the restaurant and buy you some dinner, and then you can come back, sit down in the corner, whatever you want to do. We are do-gooders. We want to help you eat." And so I thank you very much. And my daddy told me to stay here. And then it started raining. People said, "Little boy, get out of the rain, get out of the rain." "No, I'm going to stay here." My daddy told me to stay here no matter what. So when his daddy showed up later, the dad said, "How'd it go, son?" He said, "Well, it started raining, as you know, thundering and lightning. I got scared, but I remember you told me to hold on to the light." And then I stood up and some women came by and they wanted to take me and try to fix me. Said, but I didn't go with them because you wanted me to hold on to the light. Well, there are a lot of things going to come our way. People trying to say, this is crazy, just surrender. We got to tell them we're going to hold on to the light no matter what happens. We're going to hold on to the light, not just for us, but for generations not even born. We want them to know that there were some people, some African Americans, as we went into the 2020s, who decided they were going to hold on to the light. And it is because they held on to the light, we still have a light.
That's all right. That's all right,
Amen.
Pastor. And Congressman and future Congresswoman, Angela, I know you're going to wrap this section, but I just have one piece of advice, which is simple, which is, I don't know if it's going to be you, Congressman and Pastor Cleaver, or if it's going to be you, Representative Jones, but we need a convening of the Democratic leaders of houses of representatives in all of the states or speakers or speaker designees in all the states, because I don't want to turn on the television and see Democrats negotiating against themselves to hand over power to Republicans because we want to choose the higher ground or the higher civil democracy ground, because we've already seen where that leads us. You don't take a spoon to the gunfight. You've already said it. But that conversation can't be had in public. It needs to be had. The fight needs to take place there. So the game plan is we have to do what is required in this moment to win.
And I just want to make sure that whenever we have this convening, as you said, we need to make sure that we have Black representation at the table.
Absolutely.
We have to.
That's why y'all are going to lead it.
That's all I want to talk to. I want to talk to the Black legislators, the Black elected officials at every level. I've been looking at Congressman William Lacey Clay's book, Just Permanent Interest, just to get inspiration for this moment. Yeah. They had a Black elected officials convening before they even did Gary in 1972 at the National Black Political Convention. So we are way past time. We are over time, not just for this podcast, but also for this meeting. So Andrew, I appreciate you saying that. State Representative Jolanta Jones, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank
Best
you.
wishes.
Absolutely. And to as it always is, the Black woman held it down. She stayed the longest, Tiff. That's what's happening. I love it. They were great.
And Angela, your point is that, we do need a Black meeting. What I'm terrified of is the Democratic Republican in Colorado, Democratic governor in Colorado who may get on television and say,
Democratic Republican.
All I want to say, and I don't know what his position is, but I don't want to see them doing these interviews where these interviewers put them in the position where they say, isn't it the right thing for democracy to have independent redistricting? Yes, when rules are fair, yes, but when they're cheating, we have to level the field. And I'm terribly afraid that we're going to have too many of our folks not willing to jump when the time comes. And so they got to get it together, and they need to do it behind closed doors.
Well, and that's just it, and I think I was telling y'all this earlier, Tiff, I want to hush because I do want to hear your perspectives on this too. When we were in Tunica this weekend, Congressman Thompson, I actually handed him the mic. Joy and I were doing this fireside chat, and we were talking about the Freedom to Vote Act, where members were pushing for these independent commissions. And these independent commissions work when people are in integrity. They do not work when you're playing with people who don't play by the same rule book or anything. So Congressman Thompson was one of the only Democrats to vote against this bill. Nancy Pelosi was on his head. What are you doing? Why are you voting against this? He said, I don't believe in these independent commissions. I want to be right. I don't want to be fair. We're not playing with people who want to be fair. And he ended up being the prophet he always is, Tiff.
I mean, to be honest, we've talked on this podcast a few times about what does a 2028 look like. And I think this is a preview for it. I was listening to them talk, and I think this is one tiny area that casts a wide net of influence, but it's one tiny area where we can fight, where we need to make our voices heard. I think we're just looking at this is how they plan to cheat. You know, this will impact midterm elections. This is going to impact presidential election. Right. It's happening before our eyes. And it again feels like we're being flooded because they're flooding the zone. Everything is happening before our eyes. We are turning into a police state before our eyes. Literally outside the window where I'm looking at, it's, you know, DC has 30 plus different law enforcement agencies here. This is going to take place all across cities. So it was nice to hear, particularly State Rep Jones. She's been coloring the airwaves and, you know, with her fire. And we talked about how we came to know Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett because she, too, fled the state of Texas during a crucial vote. And people fell in love with her on air. Yeah. So it's just nice to see us fighting somewhere. I am cautiously optimistic about what tangible impact this will have. I also appreciate her point about allies refusing to say the word racist, because to me that makes you less of an ally. And I've given this example before, but it's like if you're at the airport and some, you know, white man comes up to you and he's like, "Excuse me, ma'am, you need to get out of line. This is for first class passengers only." And you're like, well, fuck you, because I am in first class. And this whole, you know, thing assembles. And then when it's all over, all the good-hearted white folks come up to you like, I just want to say that was completely inappropriate and we do not support that. I don't need that right now. What I needed is for you in the moment to come up and say, wait a second, you will not speak to this woman that way. That is not appropriate. That is allyship. The other one is an effort to make you feel good about yourself. But the ally jumps in the fight when the fight is happening and calls it a thing. So I really like that she called that out. And I think we need more people. What do y'all want to... I have so many thoughts. What would you all like to talk about on the mini pod? I have a story I would like to tell on the mini pod, but I kind of want y'all's opinion. But I told y'all the story before, but when she talked about that thing... I said I want to tell the story that I told y'all briefly before about potential violence with some of these people. I told y'all don't remember. Now the viewers can see.
I'm just making sure it's not to be porn.
It's not to be porn.
Angela know what I'm talking about.
I just feel like I mean maybe this is me being the political nerd. I just feel so drawn to this redistricting piece, Tiff, because there are these fights that are going to be waged on us. And my math isn't great, but I just want to see how the math is going to math. Like if Florida is talking about taking more seats, Florida is 20 of the 28 seats right now in Congress are Republican in Florida. They're talking about Nebraska now, Missouri. Of course, we just had Mr. Cleaver on, Andre in Indiana, South Carolina. They're threatening Mr. Clyburn's seat. When they were trying to draw another black district not that long ago, Ohio, Texas, Louisiana, and I don't know what's going to happen with Alabama. Shamari just got there.
So you want to talk about redistricting I'm like, still?
I'm in it, but I believe in a democracy. So
I want to talk about the math. I want to talk about how we survive mutual annihilation.
But does Tiffany has to beat somebody up, though?
Yeah, I think that's
what I'm saying. I think what she's saying will carry us there.
Yeah.
Well, let's
it's
do it.
ratcheting up.
I also want to talk about when is Eric Holder coming on, because I want him to defend these independent commissions. If that's
I think we can be for them and still set it aside right now, which is why we should have that conversation.
Yeah, I think there's some daylight between you guys on that. Okay, so on the mini pod, I will tell a story when I almost literally came to blows with this white woman. I will tell that story.
Oh, yes.
I will tell that story on the mini pod.
Okay.
And that will lead us into the fight of us coming to blows across these states. Don't get what?
Deported.
Oh, listen.
I would like to de-arrest you.
Yeah.
I don't want you deported.
Yeah.
I definitely want to de-escalate the matter. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's do our calls to action.
Oh, yes. That's important because I was definitely just about to close out the show.
Y'all keep me prayed up. My two first children are now middle schoolers as of this week. So praying up all the families who are dealing with the return to school. Thank you, Jesus. But also, growing kids who think they grown and ain't grown
Yes.
yet.
Well, congratulations
praise be to
for
God.
surviving this far, Andrew. It reminds me of the episode of The
Lord.
Cosby Show where it's the first day back to school and Rudy packed her own lunch. So
God.
congrats. That's exciting though. And the time,
Thank you. And
as
congrats
you
to
say,
all the parents.
days are long and the years are short.
Juggling this.
So this time is going to go by
That's
so
it.
quickly. Yeah. So that's awesome. I
That's
can't
it.
believe it's back to school already. Speaking of, my goodness. I guess so.
Tiff, what's your CTA?
My call to action is to survive these encounters with law enforcement. I'm struck by what I'm seeing across the streets of DC, and we collectively know right now with certainty that these interactions will continue to expand. He's already said he's coming to Chicago, Baltimore, Oakland, and other cities, particularly those with Black mayors. So it's fine for us to protest. It's fine for us to not yield to authoritarianism, but please survive. Know your rights survive the encounter, because I don't want any of y'all to be a hashtag. I don't want us showing pictures or body cam footage of somebody whose anger got the better of them. We have to be smart and strategic with how we confront authoritarianism, particularly when it comes to people who are armed and have been given immunity to do whatever the fuck they want to you. We got to be smart about that. So survive.
Yeah.
Please survive. We need you to. My call to action is actually, I need y'all to turn to your neighbor and say $50.
$50.
Well, thank you for your participation. We are giving away a $50 gift card to some lucky winner. For those of you who agree to take our survey, we have an audience survey that you all have seen, a great promo from Tiff About online if you follow us on Instagram. We also have a clip of it up on our YouTube, and it is in our podcast as a promo. We want you to weigh in, tell us what you like about the show, give us your feedback. We definitely want to hear from you. You can check out the link in this episode's description. And I really want to just say, the Loonies might have said they got 5 on it. We got 50 on it. So we even beating the Loonies up in here.
And a poster, right? And a poster. And a poster, right?
Oh, yes. And his consolation prize for those of you who don't get the $50 is a signed poster from us. Some of you are all excited about it. I don't know why, but we're grateful. And as always, we want to remind everyone to leave us a review and subscribe to Native Land Pod. We are available on all podcast platforms and YouTube. If you're looking for more shows like ours, check out the other shows on our Reason Choice Media Network. Spolitics with Jamel Hill, Off the Cup with Essie Cup, and our newest edition, Now You Know, with 13-year-old Noah DeBarrasso. Be sure to give those a follow. And don't forget to follow us too on social media. By the way, y'all, we are on Fanbase now. And subscribe to our text or email list on nativelandpod.com. We are your hosts, Angela Rye, Tiffany Cross, and Andrew Gillum. Welcome home, y'all. There are 446 days until the midterm elections. Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.